Isabella Carter's heart raced as she approached the towering glass building of Blackwood International, the site of the most important job interview of her life. It was a chilly morning, and she had dressed carefully in a light beige blazer, hoping to project an image of professionalism and confidence. But everything had changed just moments ago when a city maintenance truck had plowed through a puddle, splashing muddy water all over her. Now, the blazer she had chosen with care was stained. Her hair, which had been perfectly curled that morning, was a mess, and she was limping slightly because one of her heels had broken. As she stood outside the revolving door, her mind raced with thoughts of turning back. She considered giving up, convinced that she would only be laughed at. But then, she remembered the note her sister had left her that morning, a note that said, "Even if the world says no, your truth is your power. Go, Bella. For me, for you." The words resonated deeply within her, and she took a steady breath, lifted her chin, and stepped inside. The moment she entered the lobby, a hush fell over the room. The polished stone floors and high ceilings made the space feel grand, but the silence felt heavy as she walked in, her mud-streaked outfit attracting incredulous stares. She could hear whispers, and she could feel the judgment in their eyes. "She doesn't belong here," they seemed to say. The security guard hesitated before handing her a visitor badge, clearly unsure if she was in the right place. "Full name, please?" he asked, his eyes scanning her outfit with discomfort. "Isabella Carter," she replied, trying to sound confident. "I'm here for the strategic marketing lead final interview with Mr. Blackwood." He entered her name into his tablet with reluctance and handed her the badge, avoiding any physical contact with her. As she stepped into the elevator, two impeccably dressed women stood beside her, their navy suits and perfect hairstyles a stark contrast to her muddy appearance. They exchanged glances that spoke volumes, silently mocking her. On the 39th floor, she was led to the executive wing, where another assistant opened the glass door to the boardroom. Inside sat 4 executives, including Ethan Blackwood, the CEO whose reputation as a billionaire and industry leader preceded him. He was known for his sharp intellect and commanding presence, and as she stepped into the room, she felt the weight of his gaze upon her. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, and she sensed the scrutiny of the other executives as they exchanged glances. "I know what I look like," she said, interrupting the silence before anyone could comment. "And I promise there's a good reason for it. But if you give me 10 minutes of your time, I'll show you that what I have to offer can't be washed off with a dry cleaner." There was a moment of tension in the air, and she could feel Ethan's eyes on her, assessing. "Go on," he said, his voice calm and inviting. Encouraged, she pulled out the folder she had clutched tightly under her arm, determined to make her case despite the embarrassment of her appearance. "I've built marketing campaigns with no budget, no team, and no connections," she continued, her voice steady. "I turned a $300 ad spend into 180% growth for a local bookstore that was on the verge of bankruptcy. I may not fit the mold of a typical strategic marketing lead candidate, but I've worked harder than most people with perfect resumes. I believe your company needs someone who understands what it means to start with nothing." Isabella felt a rush of adrenaline as she spoke, channeling her passion and experience into her presentation. However, just as she was gaining momentum, Naomi Lancaster, the head of brand strategy and Ethan's ex, entered the room. Her polished entrance contrasted sharply with Isabella's muddy attire, and she took her seat without acknowledging Isabella. Naomi's appearance shifted the dynamic in the room. "I didn't realize there were joint interviews," she quipped, her eyes narrowing as she assessed Isabella. "Is she part of the cleaning staff?" Laughter erupted from some of the executives, but Isabella remained composed, determined to press on. Ethan responded firmly. "She's a candidate," and she was in the middle of her pitch. Naomi's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly, inviting Isabella to continue. With renewed determination, Isabella moved to the whiteboard and began outlining her marketing strategy. She spoke clearly, detailing her experiences, and despite her muddy clothes, she commanded the room's attention. Her hands moved confidently as she wrote, and she could feel Ethan's gaze on her, intrigued. But just as she finished her presentation, Her stomach growled loudly, breaking the tension in the room. Isabella laughed, using humor to diffuse the situation. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to eat since 5 a.m. Mud wasn't on the breakfast menu. Ethan chuckled, and for the first time, the atmosphere lightened. After finishing her pitch, Isabella left the boardroom, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. She had done her best, despite the odds stacked against her. As she stood in the elevator, she took a deep breath, proud of herself for facing her fears. But her relief was short-lived when she received a notification on her phone. The subject line read, "Urgent. Company-wide email sent by mistake." As she opened it, her heart sank. The email contained sensitive comments about her appearance and had been forwarded to the entire company, going viral almost instantly. Her photo, muddy and disheveled, was now the subject of ridicule across social media. Isabella felt the humiliation wash over her, and she was about to crumble when Ethan appeared outside the revolving doors, holding a paper bag and a coffee cup. "Lunch or late breakfast, depending on your schedule," he said, offering her the food. She blinked, surprised. "You brought me food?" she asked. "You were running on empty," he replied. They found a quiet spot at a nearby cafe, and Isabella savored each bite of her grilled cheese sandwich, feeling the warmth of the food and the moment. As they sat together, Isabella couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty about her future at Blackwood. "What happens next?" she asked, her heart racing. Ethan's expression turned serious as he explained that the PR team would respond to the leak and that an investigation would take place. "You didn't just make an impression today," he said, looking into her eyes. "You reminded me and everyone else what courage looks like when it isn't polished." Isabella felt a swell of hope, realizing that there was something genuine between them. Meanwhile, Naomi paced anxiously in her office after the email debacle. Her assistant stood nervously nearby, suggesting damage control measures. "We need to spin this," Naomi insisted, desperate to maintain her position and reputation. Back at the cafe, Isabella and Ethan shared another moment of connection, and she felt a surge of confidence. "Okay, I'll survive this," she said, her voice steady. "But I'm going to need a decent sandwich first." Ethan smiled, clearly appreciating her resilience. As the day continued, Isabella returned home, reflecting on everything that had happened. She was no longer just the muddy girl who had walked into that boardroom. She was someone who had faced adversity head-on. Her phone buzzed with notifications, and she felt a mixture of anxiety and excitement about what lay ahead. The world was watching her now, but instead of feeling ashamed, Isabella felt empowered. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in her abilities and determined to carve out her place in the world.